Hello and thank you for watching. This is Capital Inc., a program where we're looking at Canberra issues, Canberra opinions, news and views. Get involved, have a look at our social media channels, contribute to this program, it's great. My name's Chris Kimball. I'm joined in the Newcastle studios here in Braddon by Harry Frost from Win TV. Welcome, Harry.
Thank you.
Ginger Gorman, social affairs commentator, Kristen Henry from Mix 106.3 Breakfast, and Emma MacDonald, senior reporter from the Canberra Times.
Hello.
Where have all the bands gone? There used to be a band on every corner, so they say, even though it may not have been quite true. It wasn't long ago that Canberra was right on the national touring circuit for many bands. There's some legendary stories about the early 90s, the Nirvana gig at the ANU that just about every Canberran of that age, including me, reckons they were at. A few people who were in all sorts of disrepair in various bushes and things around the place. It was a legendary gig, but those were the days where Canberra was on the national touring circuit. Fast forward to today, and Canberra is often overlooked by major acts, and there's talk about big bands and big acts going to places like Newcastle and Wollongong, but leaving Canberra off the list. What has happened to the big acts? Is it the audiences? Is it the venues? Is it our local tourist economy? You know, this is obviously something that has been, you know, teasing us, and you know, we see the big acts come and go. Kristen, you remember some of those great shows over the years and stuff like that?
And you know what, and I wish that we could woo some of the big acts. I really wish that we could. I wish Tay was coming to play. I wish Madonna was playing here rather than so many of us, including one person here, you know, travelling to see her. And it's two-pronged for me as to why we're not wooing those big acts. The first one is, do we have a space big enough to house them? Is the AIS big enough? Is the convention centre big enough? And unfortunately, Taylor Swift isn't going to come and play at the AIS. She's just not. It's just not big enough for her. But it is also, I think, a bit of a Canberra problem. We need to put our hands on our hearts and promise each other that when we do woo these big acts, that we will pull our finger out and we will actually turn up. Whether it's cold, whether it's raining, we will plan, we will book those tickets and we will turn up.
Are you going to Keith Urban?
No, well, not yet. But I do want to go to Keith Urban, and he's got Carrie Underwood coming as well, and like that's going to be bloody awesome. But he is probably the biggest name that we've had here for a long time. I mean, we had Rob Thomas. When we talk about musical acts, Rob Thomas was pretty big.
No comment.
Who's Rob Thomas?
Oh my goodness, Matchbox 20. And when we talk about comedians, like we're getting some really good comedians here recently. We had Ross Noble, we're getting Pete Hellier, Arj Barker, Kitty Flanagan. So it's not as if the, you know,
but are we
the
lazy?
rich and famous.
We were lazy because a mate of mine in the music industry, I asked him this question and he just said, we're lazy. People don't vote with their feet, and promoters know that and they go elsewhere. So it's an economic thing. If people are not going to pay the money, promoters are not going to bring the bands here. Simple as that.
It comes to a deeper cultural issue, I think, in Canberra. We don't have a really strong pub culture, unfortunately, so we don't have that really grassroots attending, going to live events, and that sort of flows through as well. Also, I think music culture is changing as well. As you mentioned, there's a lot of good comedians coming to Canberra. We've seen a folk festival here in Canberra, but music is changing. We've got DJs coming to Canberra now. We're talking about big bands not coming to Canberra, but is there big bands anymore? Are they still what people want to see? People want to see DJs in smaller venues. They want to see independent acts in smaller venues.
No,
so
I want to see the Rolling Stones and I want to see Madonna, and I go to Sydney for all those big concerts and Fleetwood Mac, and you know, I wouldn't go for Taylor Swift, but I know people who do.
But do you really wish they were here though?
Yeah,
like
because they used to come. When I was growing up, I saw Kylie Minogue. I held Michael Hutchins' hand across the stage at Bruce. That was a moment.
Amazing.
But are we overstating Canberra's place in that broader tourism? I mean, I love the place, but you know,
it's only 3 hours from Sydney. Yeah. Surely we could get. We used to get some of the really big bands. We used to, you know, the AIS back then was, you know, considered groundbreaking and new and modern. So I always hold out hope that maybe if we get our city to the lake, you know, a new convention centre, we might be able to get, you know, wasn't there a talk that it could host someone like the Rolling Stones? That would be fantastic. One would hope that Canberrans would turn out to things. Having said that, I have been pleasantly surprised to attend the Southern Cross Club in recent months. And it's
You saw Belinda
been-
Colour.
I saw Belinda Colour. I saw Bananarama. God help us all. They were packed. Honestly, you
tore it
could
apart,
not
didn't
move.
you? Yeah.
It
See,
was
that's cool.
so much fun, and it's just really fun to see music. You can go to big events and big crowd events, but when you're all focused on a musical act, there's a real community there, and I think it's really good for the souls.
And to be fair, look, in the last 5 years we've had Pink, we've had Lady Gaga, we've had Elton John, we've got Keith. He's not quite up there with him, but they're still...
Bananarama.
Is that our...
Belinda Colour.
But is that where we're at? Like, you know, is Madonna going to play Wollongong? Like, she's not going to play in a town that's less than 1 million people. Is that just a reality? I mean, and
I mean,
and
we're
perhaps
not. We're only 350,000 people. Is that the current population?
But you know what?
It's not that big.
We Canberrans have the highest consumption of music and culture events. You know, it's crazy.
And if you go to the National Folk Festival, which I think somewhere between 54,000 and 75,000 people go over the weekend, you can't say we're not a music-loving, culture-loving city if you go to that event, you know.
Groove in the Moo as well, completely sold out.
Are we too eclectic in our taste, perhaps? Then we're not providing the demand for these big artists to come because we have these unique tastes. The culture of music has changed so much, and people can now consume music in different ways.
Yeah.
People are not just into the big bands anymore. They like their smaller bands. They go online, they find undiscovered bands, and so maybe...
But Harry, there's no smaller bands. The number of venues that are hosting smaller bands, I don't think you can be a muso and make money in this town. I think you've got to be, you know, waitressing on the
Public
side.
servant by day, musician by night.
You
That's
look
all
at
the
the-
musicians I know.
Yeah, Chris Hendry and the Fun Machine guys, you know, like that, it was hard. But
Yeah,
I think in that centenary year there was this great celebration of local music, like the
Yeah.
guerrilla gigs they were doing
Yeah.
and the little pop-up gigs and like
No,
that's
you can't
great
have
fun.
a pop-up
But
gig
yeah,
now. The
it's-
regulation is so tight that you just can't. And there's a great report by Music ACT, which is a group of volunteers, and they've given it to government. Government haven't heard a peep from them, but they're saying if you want music in the ACT to survive, you need to make it easier. You need to streamline the legislation. You need to have a central point of contact. You need to have the liquor licensing laws in touch. You need to allow the pop-ups to pop up without being quashed. You know, there's a great creative community in this city, and you'd think that we would be a real hub for live music and pubs and bands and events at night, because we've got such an upwardly mobile, culturally in tune society. But if you can't get a license,
It's tough.
and the minute you make a peep after midnight, you've got some disgruntled resident in a inner city apartment shooting you down.
You look at a place like Dunedin in New Zealand, smaller town than ours. They've built this spectacular enclosed stadium that has become that sort of catch-all facility where they can have big conferences, they have big bands, it's year-round, it's all that. Like, it is transformative and has been for them, that suddenly Dunedin's on the touring map in New Zealand for those big bands and things like that. I mean, maybe if you build it, they will come. Maybe that's a truism.
But isn't it our time? We've got some street cred. We just,
we
need
do.
to...
Definitely.
And I reckon we're also proving it with sporting matches as well. Look at GWS every time they come to play, sold out at Manuka. The Brumbies recently, when we had the Tars, where it's over 20,000 going to games. The Raiders, when they are winning, are seeing around the 13, 14, 15,000 mark. So we are getting out there. We are going to things.
We need Tay to play before the GWS game, and then it would all be just sorted out.
Yes.
Wouldn't it? There would be the crowd.
They'd love it.
Well, look, if you think Tay should come to Canberra and maybe even play for GWS or beforehand, something like that, tell us what you think. What do you think of the live music scene in Canberra? How can we make it better? If you build it, will they come? All of that sort of stuff. Get involved. This is your program, Capital Link. Thanks for watching.